Thanks for staying with us. So last week, the whole country was thrown into panic mode as Lagos State recorded its first coronavirus patients. Just yesterday, 43 people excuse me, were already quarantined in Plateau State. On the show today, we have Senator Dr. Yayaha Oloriegbe. He's the chairman, Senate Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary in Abuja studio. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, good to have you on. So viewers, you can call us on 07080668014. You can also tweet us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag TVC so we can read your tweets. Senator, one of the concerns Nigerians have had since Friday is the issue of these isolation centers not being ready to receive possible cases. So Lagos State have told us recently that they've actually upgraded, or they actually moved their index case to a better facility. But other states have reported that they are probably not prepared, and they don't have, the isolation centers are not properly prepared. What is your committee doing to ensure that all the various states are ready to receive any possible cases of coronavirus?
Good morning. Let me say that it may not be possible for all the 36 plus one state to have ready center, because we are not expecting that we'll have such. The plan, which based on discussion between the National Assembly and the executive, that's the Federal Ministry of Affairs, is for us to have center. We had centers in 3 locations: Lagos, Abuja, and Kano, because those places were identified as the most probable high-risk areas where we could have cases. And as you could see, the first case came in through Lagos, of course, went to Ogun State, and it has to be moved to Lagos. There is a designated center in Abuja at the University of Abuja, and there's one in Kano, in Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital. However, before now, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has had interaction with several states to make them prepare for emergencies, not only necessary this. As you know, we are battling with Lassa fever even before now. And there are some isolation centers in some of the federal teaching hospitals across the country. But this may not be, the isolation center to be able to handle infection. So my summary will be that for this particular epidemics, I think Lagos, Abuja, and Kano are the places that have been gotten ready.
Okay.
But that does not preclude that the NCDC is not discussing with state or providing support to state for them to provide some kind of centers to isolate. But we are not expecting that we'll have such a large case.
All right, sir.
Mr. Senator, we have a few people say that, yes, they're giving positive feedback on what the airports are doing, but we're wondering why we're not putting like is there a ban on some of the flights coming from these high-risk countries? You would think people coming in from places like Italy or China or places that they already have these cases. Why are we letting them in?
I think there's an international release, and Nigeria is part of that international commitment. WHO has assessed the situation. And of course, it has 2 effects. As we are looking at the health effect, we have to look at the economic effect of taking certain actions. And already our economy is fragile. And if we have to take certain actions, I think it has a great economic consequences. Besides, the pandemic, or the epidemic, is a pandemic now because it's affecting several countries. It's not as if the infection, what we are dealing with is so volatile in terms of the mortality rate. It's about 2%. So it means it doesn't mean that when people are like what you call the influenza, the influenza is always there all over the world. It doesn't mean we ban flight now when we have influenza in Europe, which has always been happening. So I think the summary is that we cannot ban flight because it does not mean that everybody that comes in from that place is infected. What we only need to do is to prepare to identify whoever that has been affected not to enter our country. And that's like the case we had. There was no obvious symptoms. If there were obvious symptoms, such a person would have been identified at the airport. So generally, I think if we ban flight, it doesn't mean that we are inflicting anything to the country, but even to our own economy also will have effect.
Point taken. Yes,
but if it becomes necessary, I'm sure we will take action on that.
Okay, all right.
So this morning in the papers, my colleague took the story where the hospital in Abuja that's supposed to be the isolation center for this case in Abuja is not even obviously, being prepared for that. If a case were to come up in Abuja now, they will then start to hurry. Why not be proactive and start to build centers and build places where at least there will be initial isolation and then before they are properly taken, just as in the Lagos case?
I'm just hearing that for the first time. I must admit that the briefings we had was that the Abuja center was ready. And even this morning before I came, I received the situation report from the NCDC. What I read there is that they will be visiting that center to assess it again. But as at not even last week, 2 weeks ago, when we had interaction with the minister, we were informed as a committee that the Abuja Center was ready. So what I would say to Nigerians would be that as soon as I finish this program, I will be in touch with the executive, and because I'm in Abuja also, we'll be able to confirm that statement. But the briefings we had 2 weeks ago was that the center at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, the one in Lagos and Aminu Kano hospitals were ready to receive cases when they are ready.
Okay.
But based on this, what I heard from your program, we'll check.
All right, okay.
Happy to know that we've been able to inform you of something, sir. I wanted to ask you concerning the challenge we are having. It might not necessarily be directly involved. You might not necessarily be directly involved in that you are overseeing hospitals, but sanitary conditions and panic mode. Everybody is going outside now, buying nose masks and we're buying sanitizers. How would you address Nigerians in terms of panic level or being worried? Some people are isolating themselves even if they have no cause to because they are worried. What would your statement be, sir, to people watching now from your end that we can use to protect ourselves?
Yeah, I think I will speak more as a scientist and a health worker, which I am primarily. People should not be panicked because, one, even the mask that people wear, the ordinary mask that is bought, is not protective. And you don't need to wear a mask just to go everywhere. From scientific information that we have, it is where you have contact with secretions, which are droplets, either from cough or from sneezing of persons that are affected. Now, the thing is this, it's not as if we have it all over the environment in Nigeria. So I would say people should not just wear masks all over the places. The thing is basically you maintain basic hygiene of washing your hand as frequent as you touch anything, and avoid using your hand to touch your mouth, to touch your nose or your eyes without washing it. If you have touched anything that is, you think, or you are involved or you engage, like with people that have this thing. The other thing would be to avoid people that have signs of upper respiratory infections, like sneezing or coughing. But it doesn't mean that those people have a coronavirus. So basically, that's what I would say. Okay. And so far from what we've learned, we still have only one case in Nigeria, so we don't need to be in a panic situation. Okay. I will ask people not to go about buying masks and wearing it or buying sanitizer. Simple soap and water.
Let me ask another issue that I felt that might be important in this. People are worried that Nigeria is yet to evacuate Nigerians living in Wuhan, in China. Initially, there were calls for even evacuation, but till now, other countries have evacuated their citizens, but Nigeria is yet to do so. Do you know if there are any plans to get rid of them, bring back our citizens?
I don't have briefings on that, and I may not be able to comment on what is the situation. I think, except we have interactions with Foreign Affairs to know that. I'm a member of, actually a vice chairman of the Diaspora Committee. The last thing I heard about it from the briefings we had, I think about 3 weeks ago, was that Nigerians are in good condition. The ambassador from China to Nigeria have said that there's no any problem with Nigerians living in Wuhan, and that is still what I have. Okay. So I will have to check on that to be able to see what exactly
Thank you very much, sir.
may need to be done.
Again, sir, like my colleague said, there's panic out there, and there's an agency of government whose duty it is, of course, to tell people and sensitize people on how important it is to panic and rush to buy masks, and how unimportant it is and how less we should worry. That's the National Orientation Agency. We hardly see their activities. Yes. We do not see them, do their job. Who is supposed to regulate, and how can you come in to, make sure that they are working, doing what they need to do?
Yeah, I think as part of the response, like what I read from Situation Report this morning is that the health sector, which is the agency, NCDC, has produced some jingles and produced also some flyers and so on. And the multi-sectoral response has Federal Ministry of Information as part of it. And as we had the president saying yesterday, the Federal Ministry of Information will also be provided with more resources for them to support the response in terms of disseminating appropriate information. NOA is an agency of Federal Ministry of Information. I'm sure they will come on board much more than now.
Okay, I have a question. While I know that we're preparing for coronavirus, it would be very wrong for us to have you and not ask you about Lassa fever, because that's very local, and that has also been killing people in Nigeria. So what would you say is the level of, or how is the health sector addressing the challenge of Lassa fever in Nigeria at the moment? What's the latest situation report you have, sir?
Well, I think in terms of addressing it, the infection is going down now. There's no increase, at least in the last 1 week. What is happening with Lassa fever is that if you look at this year compared to previous years, I think we are getting better at diagnosing and identifying cases early, in which case there's a reduction in terms of the mortality rate. It does not mean that we still don't have infection, we don't have death, but comparatively to what has happened in the past, it is reducing. Because the NCDC, in the past, the center is the youngest parastatals of Federal Ministry of Health, but the center is quite doing a lot of work in terms of training more people across the country. We have better diagnostic center now. They have 4 laboratories that diagnostics across the country. And the health workers are more alert in terms of identifying cases. But as you know, it's a very, very, unlike even coronavirus, the fatality rate is very high. So generally what I would say is that we are doing better, but we are not yet there.
Okay, so let me just throw in one question for you.
Yes, just one last question concerning the coronavirus and the panic, and some of the fallouts that's happened because of this panic is widespread of increase. I mean, increase in the prices of sanitizers and masks and things like that. I was wondering if government has made like a formal statement to protect, consumers and citizens in this time. Who do they go to report to when they find this wild increase in price? What do they do when they go to a place and then they are made to buy something they were buying for 500 and they are made to buy it for 4,500 or 19,500, as we've been hearing over the weekend?
Well, I think you're asking 2 questions in one. One, the government, it's a market. And I think what the government role will be is to educate the people to say they don't need to go and buy in panic, those 2 items that you mentioned. The Minister of State for Health was on one program this morning in another station. And also, NCDC and Federal Ministry of Health has made a release. Nigerians don't need to go into panic mode of buying masks or sanitizers. As I said, we are not in a situation like what you see in China. Like many other countries, do you see UK where they have even more cases than us? You don't see people, America has more cases than us. You don't see people going about with masks. So we don't need to go about with masks or buy masks. What we need to do, as I said, is to maintain simple personal hygiene of hand washing, of keeping distance from anybody that has upper respiratory infection. And that is simply what will have to happen. Okay. The second part of it will be the Consumer Protection Agency is an agency of government that needs to come into this in 2 ways. It is one, the Consumer Protection Agency has a role and to be able to protect the consumers as far as the right is concerned. But price regulation is a free market. It's something that is difficult to do. It is individual choice and decision. So it is more of information and it's more of enlightenment that will work.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We really appreciate the information you're giving to us this morning. That's all we can take. But to Nigerians generally, let's just remind us, we only have 1 confirmed case of coronavirus. Others have been suspected, they've tested so far negative, but they have to watch them for the next 14 days to be sure that they are indeed, they actually contacted the virus. That's on those who have been quarantined for now. For those of you that might suspect that you might have an illness, either you quarantine yourself or you call a medical practitioner and say, okay, I think I might have been in the plane or something. Contact them as soon as you can. And try to just don't go to public places. Just stay indoors. No panic. Don't start buying sanitizer. I know I bought sanitizers. I know, but I bought for my children and everything. But doesn't mean that. What the point is, we've not reached that stage of panic. So everything is still under control. And Nigerian airlines have been doing a great job in ensuring people are filling the forms, their names, their addresses, the email address. So in case there's a situation, they can trace you, which is great stuff we're hearing from Nigeria. So no panic, guys.
Just wash your hands.
Just wash your hands.
And now we know. Mask does not protect you as such.
And are we still greeting with our feet? Because so the governor and the deputy governor do that.
All right, that's what we can take. Let's go on a break now. When we come back, we'll go on to other topics. Stay with us. We'll be right back.